Good morning. I'd like to call the Weber County Board of Commissioners into session for the date of the 21st day of January 2020. It's Tuesday. Welcome. I hope everybody had a great holiday. Doesn't seem like we were off that long, but it was great to have an extra day. And appreciate everybody that is with us this morning. We're going to start off with an invocation. Let me introduce myself. I'm Commissioner Gage Frohr. To my left is Commissioner Scott Jenkins. To my right, Commissioner Jim Harvey. And we will have a invocation with Zachary Dame, Pledge of Allegiance, Shelley from our commission office, and Thought of the Day, Commissioner Jenkins. We'll go to that point. Zachary, welcome. It's always great to see you.
God in heaven, we thank you for this day that you've given us and for the life that it presents before us, for every day that you give to us. Help us to be grateful for it and to make the most of every day that you present before us. We pray that today, as we consider what is before the county, as you have given us this day, that you would guide the commissioners as they make decisions for what lies before the county, that they would have wisdom and prudence, Lord, to make those decisions in a way that would be fitting. And we pray that you would guide them and direct them in everything that they do. We pray that you would help everyone who is participating in the government, we the citizens, as we come to present petitions or to be involved in our government, that, Lord, you would bless us. And we thank you for giving us the blessings of liberty and the ability to govern ourselves in this country. We pray that you would help us to live each day in a manner that would be honoring to you, as well as a manner that would be beneficial to our country. And it is in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Shelley?
Please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Thank you, Commissioner
Thought of the
Frohr.
day.
Appreciate it. Zachary, thank you. We appreciate you. You know, it's a wonderful time to be alive right now in this world. I know today happens to be the start of an impeachment of the President of the United States, and it absolutely depresses me that we've got to this point in the country where we can't get along, we can't talk, we can't self-govern. And I worry about it a lot, because if we can't get over this, it's important. It's very, very, very important that we work together to self-govern. You know, we've got something that's is going really good here in our country, and we do well at it. And you can only govern people as long as they want to be governed. And if they don't want to be governed, you can't govern them. And that's the whole point. This is a willing organization, a willing commitment we all have to live by the law and to be governed. And I look at Mark DeCaria here. You know, I happen to be the chair of the Judicial Confirmation Committee for the state of Utah when we confirmed him a judge up here. And it was such a privilege to work with him. And these are such wonderful people. But like I say, good people or not, it only works if you want to be governed. And so we've got to get off our high horses, all of us here, and work together to make sure that we do work together. And that's one thing I want to thank you two commissioners for, is we work really hard to keep on the same page, to make sure that we're getting along, and we don't always agree and we don't always vote, but we all together, but we always speak respectfully to each other. And that's a big deal that we do that. And I appreciate you both, and I want you to know it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Commissioner. Very well said. So we will now move on to public comment. This is an opportunity for any members of the public, if you're here, to please come forward and address the commissioners. Doesn't look like we have any takers. Mark, you'll have your chance in a second. So let's move on. So we wanted to take this opportunity to recognize one of our own, Lance Peterson, for receiving the Utah Emergency Management Association Hall of Fame Award at the 2020 UEMA Annual Conference. So Lance, I want to give a little talk here before you speak.
Okay.
And then we'll give you an opportunity to respond, if that's okay.
Okay.
So I just wanted to share with you that Lance Peterson is being awarded the Utah Emergency Management Association Hall of Fame Award. That's a big deal. At that 2020 UEMA Annual Conference tomorrow, well, actually that was last week, January 15th, right? It's a prestigious award that recognizes individuals who have significantly contributed to emergency management, which obviously Lance has. The Hall of Fame is the highest level of recognition given to the individual by the UEMA and only awarded once in a lifetime. Wow, it's a good thing you got it, Lance. So this is what Lance's peers actually shared at that presentation. And this is what was talked about Lance. Lance Peterson, exemplary commitment to emergency management has been a beacon for newcomers for nearly 4 decades. As a leader and mentor, he coached new generations of emergency management professionals in the state of Utah. His innovative thought processes are rooted in real-world experiences, and his steadfast attitude has enhanced preparedness and response plans throughout the state. He served as president of the Utah Emergency Management Association and worked as the state exercise training officer for the Utah Division of Comprehensive Emergency Management. He served on several curriculum development committees for FEMA, including the Comprehensive Exercise Curriculum courses, the Master Exercise Practitioners Training Program, Mass Fatalities Incident Response, and Special Events Planning and Independent Study course. Lance's accomplishments in emergency management has set a high bar for all that follow in his footsteps. Please join me, and Lance, we're going to give you an opportunity, but please, let's have a round of applause for Lance Peterson. Lance, great job. Time's yours.
Oh, thanks, Commissioner. It's probably more like the Hall of Infamy, but it's a real humbling to be recognized by your peers, but it's even a greater honor, I think, to be recognized by you 3 commissioners and Sheriff Arbonne and those gentlemen and lady back there on the back 2 rows. You're the folks I work for, so that's an even bigger honor, I think. So thank you very much for recognizing that. And we've accomplished a lot of good things here in Weber because, like you were saying earlier, Commissioner Jenkins, we all get along up here in this county. We wouldn't be able to do what we do up here without that collaboration and cooperation and getting along. So thank you very much for this. It means a lot.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a special recognition to Lance. He's invited me to be involved to speak to some of these conferences he has, and I'm amazed at the quality, the professional people that attend those conferences for emergency management. There was a hazmat conference just last week that was attended by people in, I believe it was a 5-county region,
6 counties.
if that's correct, and 6 or 7. Yeah, so there was people from all across the state that attended, and Lance basically heads that up, and the education that is put forth in those conferences benefits us all, benefits the community. So, Lance, we thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you.
Gage?
Commissioner Jenkins.
You know, it's interesting. Last year I had a chance to work very close with Lance as we decided what to do on the turn of water into that Weber, turn off or whatever we want to call that. Yeah, that, to take the overflow of the river. And that ends up hurting people who have property downriver. And we've worked with mainly Randy Merritt. He's the main one that has the bulk of that property out there, to try to get him ready for this year, Lance. And we've got a good snowpack going, and Gee, if we happen to have a good spring, we could end up in the same situation this year that we did last. Hopefully, we'll be much more prepared this year. So anyway, this is good. I appreciate working with you, and it's been enjoyable, and you've done a really good job, Lance. So congratulations for this.
We'll now move on to presentation on St. Joseph's Elementary School. And we have with us Mark DeCaria, formerly Judge DeCaria. And as he comes forward, I just wanted to take a personal privilege. So Mark and I go a long ways back, actually back to high school. He graduated, I believe, the same year I did, exactly the same year, which is, who's counting, but about 50 years ago. It only seems a long time.
Exactly.
From Weaver?
So Mark actually graduated from Ogden High.
Right.
Oh.
We had a common friend.
We did.
We had a common friend that, so that's where I met Mark, and we've kind of crossed paths on and off again for that period of time. It's been an honor and privilege to know Mark when he served on the bench. He did spend a little time at the Capitol with us, not a lot, but which was probably a good thing for him. But anyway, Mark, we appreciate what you've done for the community. He serves on the CJ board, the Child Criminal Justice Board.
Right.
Does a great job there, so Children's Center.
Yep,
So,
that's good.
Mark, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Frohr and Commissioner Harvey, Commissioner Jenkins. I know you guys well. I've worked a lot with you, and certainly Commissioner Jenkins, when he was in the Senate, had a big role in my ability to even get appointed, and I really appreciate that. That was there were some moments there where I had my doubts, but he really. You must think better of me than sometimes I think of myself, so appreciate that. These are hallowed halls for me. I have worked in the county. I worked for 16 years as the county attorney and in the office for several years before that, and have had the ability to sit in that chair right there many times and work with the commission as it does the business of the county. And I have a ton of respect for the work that you guys put in. I'm here on a little bit different sort of a program here today, and it has nothing to do with government. It's more of an FYI about what's going on in St. Joseph's Elementary School. It may be unusual for me to be making that presentation, but I did go to St. Joe Elementary School as a child from the 1st through the 8th grade before I went into public schools. And I just a couple of notes. St. Joseph's Elementary School and High School were the first Catholic schools in the state to come to Utah, and that happened in 1877, I think, and I was in the freshman class that year, but I was not. I looked that old, but now, you know, they've morphed a bit and migrated and changed. There aren't as many people, members of the cloth that are presenting or teaching at the school, but it's still a high-quality education. They currently have enrollment of 373 students, 40% of which are minority students. They have Title I students who have need of government assistance. They have student tuition assistance. 60% of the students there are on tuition assistance. The school has a really big fundraising effort to raise funds to have kids who might not otherwise be able to afford the school. They've raised $824,000 in tuition assistance just for the years 2018 through 19. And as you can see, the rest of the statistics there, it doesn't discriminate based upon religion. Anyone can get into that school. The parents are big volunteer hours, 6,000 volunteer hours, and 95% of the 8th grade graduates go to St. Joe High School. Interestingly, the graduates from the 8th grade have a full cap and gown ceremony, just like we did when we graduated from high school. And so it just is, of the cap and gown ceremonies I've been able to go to, that was my first. Anyway, the school is in need of a build-out. It needs some assistance. Currently, they are making do with the building, and they're going to stay there, of course, on 30th and Quincy. And their goal is to raise $4 million to build a gymnasium with a kitchen, a science lab, computer lab, art studio, extended day program facilities, an office, tutoring facilities for special needs students, and 4 classrooms to replace second and third grade classrooms that are just inadequate. The total build out would be 18,500 square feet. And they need to raise $4 million, but I just want to point out that they've already raised 62% of that money. The kickoff for the fundraising event, now certainly I'm not asking the county to donate any money. This is just an FYI so that you understand what's going on within our fair city. But the kickoff will be April 1st, and you'll each get an invitation, but I want to personally invite you to go to that if you're willing. It's on the 1st of April at 11:30 a.m. at the elementary school itself. And so construction is slated to begin June of 2021, and they think it'll take about a year to complete the build-out. So if you have questions, I may be glad to ask them, and otherwise, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to make this public.
Thank you, Mark. Questions from commissioners?
I do.
Commissioner Jenkins.
So, Mark, how does St. Joe's fund themselves?
They fund themselves strictly on tuition from the parents who pay tuition, and
Really?
then
So it's 100% private?
yeah, it's 100% private school.
Wow.
It's really probably the only private school in Utah that in Ogden that goes from first through
Right.
senior in high school, first grade through senior in high school.
Very good. That's what I wanted to know.
Okay, thanks.
What's the date of that again, that, and what are you calling it?
You mean the kickoff for the fundraising event? That would be April 1st at 11:30 a.m. And it's on the sheet that I handed you guys up there. It's on the back, so it has all those particulars. And so I appreciate the time. Thank you so much, and I'll let you get on with the real business of the county.
Thank you, Mark.
you.
And I just want to give a shout out. I've had some experience with people and friends that have attended St. Joe, both at the elementary and the high school level. And boy, they do a great job of educating the kids up there. They're really a pillar for this community, and obviously this community needs to stand up and support them whenever possible.
Thank you for saying so, Commissioner, and I appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing you near in the near future, and certainly at that kickoff. So
Thank you, Mark. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. Looks like we'll move on to consent items. G on our agenda, and we have a request for approval of warrants, numbers 2357 through 2381 and 446581 through 446791 in the amount of $1,807,659.25. Number 2 is request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $7,289,870.40. 3, request for approval of minutes for meetings held on January 7th and January 14th, 2020. 4, request for approval of new business licenses. 5, request for approval of new beer licenses. 6, request for approval of electronic records retention policy 26.1. 7, request for approval of policy 3-300, alcohol and drug screening, testing, and treatment. 8, request from the Weber County Commission Office for approval to surplus office furniture and equipment. 9, request from the Weber County Sheriff's Office for approval to surplus office furniture and equipment. Item 10, request for the Weber County Golden Spike Event Center for approval to surplus rodeo equipment and landscaping equipment. Item 11, request for approval of a survey monument improvement agreement by and between Weber County and Blackburn and Jones REI for Suncrest Meadows, Phase 2. And item 12, request for final approval of Shadow Jensen subdivision consisting of 4 lots. Commissioners, questions on those items? Commissioner Jenkins.
You know, that's a massive amount of money we just spent, $7.2 million. And I don't see Steve Allred here. You know, the question I have, when we do these purchase orders for indigent defense, The question I have is, we purchase something before we get it and pay for it. And so, well, we don't pay for it. I take that back. We purchase it. And so they have an open PO out there that sits there. And, you know, some of these are $1.5 million. And then, so is it like we get halfway through the year and they say, well, we got to hurry up and bill that out, or is it billed by the hour? Or, you know, I think it would probably be time to get an accounting on those purchase orders we make.
Outstanding POs.
Yeah, because they're so large and they loom out there. And I can understand when we're buying salt and sand and things for where we make a blank PO that covers up to certain tonnage. And then we go ahead and get that tonnage, and then anything above and beyond that is more. But in this case, I just don't feel secure that the accounting is taking place that allows us to document what we're spending on these large purchase orders that are sitting out there. So I guess what I would say
is that a question for Ricky as well, or?
Well, I'm willing to approve this today, Ricky, but I would really like to request that we get an accounting on how that's. No, not how they're spent, but how we control it and regulate it through the process to make sure that we're getting what we contracted to get.
Happy to work with the attorney's office
Great.
to figure out
So,
how that process.
Commissioner Jenkins, just so I understand it, so you're really talking about the process and really the cost accounting aspects.
Right.
We know where
That's
we are at
exactly
any
right.
given minute. Is
Right.
that correct? Mm-hmm. You're not
I'm not
asking
opposed
for,
to the actual
asking
purchase.
for any information on these today. You're just saying, let's look at the process,
Right.
the cost accounting. Ricky, does that make sense?
Yeah, we were just talking about it briefly, and we'll get back and get you
Yeah,
the
I think
information.
that's a valid request. I'd like you guys to do that.
Great.
Commissioner Harvey, do you have a question?
No question. It's just, in the time I've spent out there with those big open POs, commissioners, and I think it more lends itself to you, Commissioner, when you talked about road salt and other things. We used to do a similar thing, for instance, with shavings or with some of the other, we'd bid the services out, and the persons who had the best, through purchasing, the persons who had the best value for us out there, we would then contract, for instance, with a shavings supplier to bring in bulk shavings to bed our stalls. And they would be massive amounts of money, because we're getting thousands of dollars at a time worth of planed shavings to bed stalls at the county. And what this allowed us to do is to have that purchase order out there and then just process those funds as those bills would come in. Of course, we had a way of checking balances to make sure that the amounts we were getting were consistent with the cubic measurement of the shavings, but I don't have an issue with that. In fact, I think it'd be good. I think it would show, if there are any holes, I'd like to know where they are, but it would also show that most people are doing a really good job with what they're doing and how we're going about business. I think a lot of it's been very well thought out, and I know for us, when we were audited, we used those as an opportunity to better the way we did business, and so I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. Gives us a little more information, making sure we're all on the right track here, which I believe we probably are. So with that, Ricky, you want to go over those?
You bet. This was the big purchase order session. The first January usually is the highest purchase order month of the year. We issued 70 purchase orders for $7.3 million. Of that amount, a third of that amount, or $2.3 million, is for human services for the year. 25% of that, or $1.8 million, is for paramedic services for the year. 17%, or $1.3 million, is for public defender services for the year. And 14%, or $1 million, is for the Convention Visitors Bureau for the contributions for the year. For checks, we issued 236 checks for $1.8 million. 1/4 of that amount, or $468,000, was for the 12th Street construction project, and those were funds that came out of the Weber Area Council of Governments. We had 2 items at 11%, or roughly $200,000, both monthly contributions to the Paramedic Fund and the Human Services. For 9%, or $162,000, we made payments on behalf of the library, which was primarily the construction up at the Ogden Valley branch, as well as the purchase of some software agreements for the year. And then 7%, or $126,000, is for the public defenders. This is the beginning of the payout for the PO that we just opened up. And then $108,000 is for the roads department, and that is for a plow truck to be replaced. And the $20,000 that we had talked about earlier, Commissioner Jenkins, we have not yet found an agreement for that. This is to Ogden City for the municipal gardens. They invoice us each year, and this is based off of an agreement that we've had in place for a while. Operations is looking for the actual contract for that agreement. And that's all.
Thank you for that, Ricky. Questions, commissioners, for Ricky?
So I might have a comment here, Commissioner Farrar. First off, so many of these payments today, they're large payments, say monthly payments, and that's not right. This is an annual payment. So like 2.3 million Weber Human Services, we don't make that. Right. Okay, secondly, there was a payment in there for $20,000 to Ogden City for the municipal gardens. And I just wanted to know if we had some kind of a contract. If that was a contract or something that we just elected to do, what keeps us into that? Because, you know, that's a substantial amount of money that we put into Ogden City's gardens, not Weber County's gardens. And so anyway, so as you could hear, they're checking in on that.
So we don't have the answer to that, Chris?
There is, I believe, an agreement. I've pulled it before, and I've spoken with Bryce Taylor about this issue in the past. But I don't. I'd have to go back and pull that and get that to you.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked that up. I saw that as I was going through those last night and wondered about that myself. So if you could check into that for us, Chris.
Sure.
It'd be nice to know whether we have a contract, what our future obligation, whether that continues, or do we have a discussion with Ogden City at some point in time?
Yeah, I'll pull the documents and send them to you.
Thank you very much.
You know, now those gardens exist. It's just maintenance mainly, and I don't know what we feel our responsibility is there.
Well, we were in this, I can comment here.
Go ahead, Commissioner Harvey.
We were, as I remember, we had another agreement as it related to something else. And this agreement with the gardens had to do with Christmas Village, it had to do with several of the different things, and it let us out of a couple of other things I think the contract will specify. We went over this a couple of years ago. I remember having a similar question back then.
Yeah.
And so, but I can't remember the
Yeah,
particulars.
it's there. We'll just need to pull it.
You'll find it.
The only question that I have is, do we feel an obligation to maintain that now?
Well, that's good
I
to
mean,
bring that up and review.
yeah,
That's
I think
good.
that's why we need to look at the contract and then
Exactly.
and then make that decision. I think this is again the exercise that we go through in looking at these dollars. Even the amount of $20,000 is very important, and we need to make sure that if we have an ongoing obligation, or do we sit down and review that contract like we're in the process of doing on several contracts with other municipalities or agencies. So I think that's proper government. That's what we do well as a commission, commissioners, is make sure that we spend the taxpayer dollars in a very frugal but timely manner. So thank you for that. Any additional questions or comments, commissioners? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I do have one more. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So this would be to Rick. This 4-lot subdivision, I realize small lot subdivisions like this don't come before us, other than just for final approval. But in this, there's a road that goes down the side of that 4-lot subdivision. Is that going to be a dedicated road to the county? Do you know?
Rick, do you want to come up?
And it appears to me that it's really half a road.
Yeah, there's just a portion. When development happens on the other side, we'll receive the other portion of that.
So we allow them to go ahead and develop based on half a road then, huh?
Correct, yeah. And that's historically been done when development happens.
Huh, I wasn't aware of that. That kind of surprises me. So there's enough that they can get asphalt in there,
Yeah.
but not the,
It'll still
it'd
need
be
county.
the curb and gutter and sidewalks, not enough
No,
for that.
We won't have curb and gutter. It'll just have asphalt.
Just asphalt, yeah.
Okay,
Anything else?
thanks.
Additional comments or questions? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
Motion to approve the consent items.
We have a motion from Commissioner Jenkins.
Second, with the provision
Go ahead.
that we include those things that you were requesting, taking a look at the contract by and between us and Ogden City for the grounds. And the other question you had, Commissioner,
What was the other question?
it had to do with the spending of the money on the open orders for the year.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
We just wanted to,
Two items, I agree.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, and I think, Chris, you've got both those items?
Yeah, I'll be working with Ricky, and we'll pull in Mr. Barron as well to answer those things for you, and then we'll get the contract for the gardens to you.
Thank you for that clarification, Commissioner. So we have a motion to approve consent items with the basis that those two items that were discussed on the PO and also the Ogden City Municipal Gardens would be addressed as part of that action. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you. Let's move on to our action items. H1, which would be a request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County appointing members to the Weber County Fair Board. Ms. Wilson, time's yours. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. So I've been chatting with Chris Crockett. He created a resolution for me. Three of our Fair Board members' terms have expired, and we would like to renew them. Susan Klontz, Glenda Lee, Laura Parker, and then we have a new appointee, Corey Green. I believe he's the former mayor of Hooper. So he will be an awesome addition to our Fair Board. All four of these people have helped us out with the fair immensely, so we would just like your approval.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Harvey, this is in your portfolio.
Yep, attended that Fair Board meeting. Susan Klontz, Glenda Lee, and Laura Parker have all been great help. Been on the Fair Board for a number of years, and are great contributors. And Corey, of course, knows because of his background the fair business, but also knows the government side of the business and will be a great addition. And so this is the recommendation that's before us today. All these terms, based on what you see there, expire at the end of this year, and it would be, when you're ready, I would make a motion that we approve this recommendation or this resolution number 5 to include those four people to the Fair Board, not to be confused with the Arena Board, but to the Fair Board.
We've got it. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Jenkins. Discussion? Thank you for that. I'm going to call for the motion. All those in favor? Oh, this is the resolution, is it not? Sorry, Fatima. Go ahead.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chair Froer?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. They're approved. H2, request for approval of a resolution of the County Commission of Weber County appointing members to the Weber Morgan Board of Health. Mr. Crockett, this is in your area.
Thank you, Commissioners. The Weber Morgan Board of Health has 13 board members. 4 of those positions expired last year, and so the Commission needs to reappoint those members. According to the interlocal agreement and bylaws, they are appointments based off recommendations from various entities. So in this particular case, the 4 recommendations are 1, Neil Garner from Ogden City, 2, Mayor Leonard Call from WACOG, 3, Kevin Eastman from Weber Human Services, and 4, Ken Johnson from Weber State University. And so we ask for you to consider and possible recommendation for appointment.
Commissioners,
Comment?
go ahead.
Having served with these 4 gentlemen, all have unique qualifications and will do well to represent Weber County and the Board of Health. I would give my highest recommendation for all of them. We have one member, Mr. Johnson, who works for Weber State, who was the National Board of Health chairman. So to have a national chair serving on a local board is quite a coup for us here locally. So those are just my comments relating to that.
Thank you. Any additional comments?
Questions I have. Neil Gardner, what can you tell me about him?
He works for IHC, a former elected official for Ogden City, former board chair there, and has the great interest. He's actually very effective in that position. I only
Very
remember that
effective.
from years ago, but done very well.
You know, I have a question on the board over there and how you guys, prior to me getting in, structured it. And
You do?
I do, and I've questioned that ever since. So I question these appointments, frankly.
I don't know this. I don't currently serve on that board.
I can probably give you a little insight on that, Commissioner.
Well, is this something that, I'd be glad to make a motion to hold these off for a week so we can talk about them. We haven't had really a chance to do that unless...
Is this time sensitive, Chris?
The Board of Health will be having their upcoming meeting next week. I'd have to check the bylaws to see if if people continue in their position until a vacancy is filled. I assume that's the case. I can quickly look at that.
Well, I don't. Commissioner Harvey, how do you?
Yeah, I don't mind waiting and talking about it. I'm always happy to revisit these, and especially if there's a need for additional understanding. I'm okay with that. They fill a unique. Each member of this board fills a unique area pertaining to the classifications that are on each member. So there used to be a board of 11, of which 7 were elected officials. This is a Weber Morgan Health Department board, and so some of those officials were appointed or elected through Morgan. I believe 3 of them were. The board went to 13, and we wanted representation. We didn't have representation, but we wanted representation from the medical field. I mean, having somebody from the medical field on the board of health seemed like a great idea to me, and still does. Having representation from the schools, especially from the people who do the medical portion for the respective school districts. We rotate that on the schools, so between the Morgan School District, Ogden, and Weber School District.
Of those 13, how many were elected? Do you remember?
There was a commissioner,
Mayor?
a mayor, I want to say a third one, but now you're taking me back. So we made it so that we had more profession focused rather than elected focused. And I did and still do feel, because of the work that they do at that Weber Morgan Health Department, that having profession focused, so that if there were an outbreak at a school, that we'd have that a little quicker than maybe what an elected official could do. I just had faith in the people who did it all day, every day, to bring that to the front of the board rather than necessarily elected official. Inasmuch, though, as Weber County, our legislative group here, still has, we hear them in a budget meeting. We still hear the Weber Morgan Health Department comes to us for funding. We still have the last say. So the elected officials, or the three of us, still get quite a say on that Weber Morgan Health Department, or the last say on that. And so I felt really good that those in the profession who do it all day, every day, were more represented on the board than 7 people, most of which were mayors from around the county. So I felt really good about that, and still do. I think it's functioning well. I think Commissioner Faure keeps us well abreast of the things that are happening over there. I know he loves attending, and I don't feel any more in or out of the loop now, not being a part of that board, as I did there, because anytime there's something comes up, I think they've been very helpful and very responsive to us. We've recently met with them regarding the study that the Division of Environmental Quality had on the Ogden Upper Valley, and involved with the Weber Morgan Health Department on that, and they've been very good and very helpful to the same level that I remember before. So in my just 3 years here, I feel really comfortable where that is.
Thank you for that. Let me just, Chris, did you have anything to add on that?
If you want, I can tell you what the structure of the board is currently, and also how it was organized.
That's probably good
previously.
information.
So the way that the board is currently structured is 13 members, 1 member of the from the Weber County Commission, 1 from the Morgan County Council, and then Morgan County has another appointment at an at-large capacity. 2 members are appointed based on recommendation from Ogden City, and 1 from WACOG. The remaining 8 appointments are 1 from the Weber Medical Society, 1 on a rotating basis from the Ogden, Morgan, and Weber school districts, 1 from Weber State University, who specializes in health administration and/or public health, 1 recommended from Weber Human Services, and 1 recommended on a rotating basis by Ogden Regional and McCady, and then 1 recommended by Midtown. And then the remaining 2 positions represent the following interests in at-large capacities: 1 environmental and 1 from the local business community.
Thank you for that. Let me just, since I sit on that board, I'm pretty familiar with these individuals. So as we look through these, Mayor Leonard Call is taking basically the mayor position on that board, and I believe that was a WACOG appointment.
Correct.
If I'm not mistaken. So that's a WACOG that came out of our meeting a couple weeks ago. Kevin Eastman, obviously, Weber Human Services, in my opinion, brings a good deal of experience, and as part of that interrelation between the health department and the Weber Human Services right now, especially with IGP, I think that's a good connection to, kind of cross-pollinate there that's effective for everybody. Neil Gardner is obviously, as Commissioner Harvey said, IHC. I have a great respect for his work. He did chair when I first came in. I think his intention and his ability to communicate the health issues is very important to that board, as well as Ken Johnson. And so I just look at both Neil Gardner and Ken Johnson, and I'm not convinced that there's 2 better people out there that we could choose to fill their shoes, even though I'm more than willing to postpone this for a week if that's important. But I can give you my personal voucher for both Neil and Ken Johnson that they've been effective members of that board. They always attend, and they bring forth good information, information that I think as an elected official, especially from my viewpoint, I wouldn't have without their expertise. So in my opinion, they bring a certain amount of expertise and professionalism. And so I'm with you, Commissioner Jenkins. When I first looked at that structure a year ago, questioned whether we were headed the right direction. I would agree with Commissioner Harvey that a board appears to be working very well. We're receiving the information that we need to receive to make good decisions as a functioning board. But I'm willing to postpone this for a week at the whatever the commissioner would like.
And I'll research this further, but I'm fairly comfortable saying that people who are currently in those positions where the terms expire, that they can continue until those terms are,
Right.
those positions are filled,
Filled,
to
right.
give you enough time to evaluate and
So
choose who
with
you
that,
like.
I'm open for a motion. Whatever pleasure of the body is.
I'm okay if you want to go ahead and approve it.
I'm going to make a recommendation then, Commissioners. Boy, there's a... You know, there is a live example. I read this morning in the change of comments you made regarding the change of leadership. You made those comments our last commission meeting in 2019, and how refreshing it is, and how divine, so to speak, that is. And there's a live example right there of just the discussion between the three of us, and I really appreciate and respect the difference of opinion with that. Moving forward, Commissioners, I'm going to make a recommendation that we approve on our action items the 4 members presented for the Weber Morgan Health Department. Ken Johnson, Neil Garner, Mayor Leonard Call, and who was the 4th one?
Ken Johnson.
Neil
him.
Garner,
Neil Gardner.
Said him.
Ken Johnson.
Ken.
Johnson, Kevin Eastman.
Kevin Eastman. Thank you. And to the Weber Morgan Health Department Board of Health.
I believe that would be Resolution 6.
Resolution 6, please.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
You do. I'll second that. But I do want to say, voice my concern. My concern is here, for years, that health department got out of control. They were paying too much money. What ends up happening is, if you don't like what's happening as an electorate, you can change the people you put into office. And this has swung so far now that you can't change it. The electorate can't change that office. Look, there's too many non-electeds there. And that's my complaint. It's not about these people individually. You know, those are 4 fine people, and I have no problem appointing them. But before we do this again next time, I think this is a discussion we should have, because I still think it's important that the electorate have the final voice. And if they want to elect people out, they can do that.
With all due respect, Commissioner, can't we now, based on our open meetings we have during our budget session, have effect on that? Where I don't think we were paying attention, even from our legislative side before. You're exactly right. It did get out of hand. It's not out of hand anymore. We have a better handle on it. We have better safeguards in place now, thanks in part to what Ricky and his staff have done. We have a better handle on that financially. And so I
Okay,
think we've
so
progressed there.
if you want to see the safeguard you had on that, you just performed it a few minutes ago in approving that bill. That was our total safeguard, is approving the amount of money that we give to the health department. So,
That was Weber Human Services.
oh, was that human service? Okay. But either way, if it was a bill to them, it'd be the same thing. My point is, I don't think that's enough. That's all I'm stating.
Okay.
Well, and Commissioners, there's a process under the law. If the Commission decides that they want to change that, they are at liberty to renegotiate and modify the interlocal agreement, and that's what the document that controls the structure of the board.
And that's a great discussion, Commissioner Jenkins. I appreciate you bringing that up. I feel that we do have good oversight in our final budget process, but it has to take place at that final budget process when we look at their request, and we depend on, obviously, our position on that board to bring back to this body, which hopefully that I've been able to do with Chris Crockett alongside, that if any concerns that we see happening in that board, we bring forth in a timely manner so we're able to deal with them. But I really haven't seen any. I think that they're, in my opinion, the board is doing a good job of following what direction the board of directors has given them within their budget. But obviously, these are type of things that we should question at any time. And I'm not opposed to looking at the future in terms of changing that board. So with that, we have a motion. We have a second. Fatima?
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chair Farrar?
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you for that discussion. Let's move on to item H3, request for approval of reconciliation change order by and between Weber County and BHI Inc. Mr. Myers, time's yours.
Good morning, Commissioners. For your approval today, I have a reconciliation change order for the previous phase of the 12th Street construction project that basically wrapped up last year. It is a credit back to the county of, during the construction, we were very careful, monitored everything, and we ended up underspending on our contract value by $95,000.
$95,000. This is the one we've talked about before, right, Bill?
Correct. That is correct.
Gary, I
yes.
should say. Okay. Questions for Mr. Myers?
So, Gary, as I understand it, this is money that is unspent, and you just want to recognize that today.
That's correct, and as part of the closeout process,
Right.
This basically zeroes out any of the quantities remaining on that contract, and we can take that $95,000 and put it towards the next phase of 12th Street.
So, Ricky, that goes back into the general fund, right?
Yes, the unspent, yep.
Okay. Questions, comments? So it looks like it's a change order in the right direction.
We like to see this direction.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Harvey,
Point of clarification.
go ahead.
Commissioner Jenkins, you asked the question, it goes into the general fund, or does it go into the restricted fund, the road fund that it's controlled by the WACOG?
I believe, if I may speak to that, I believe it does go back into the WACOG funds because that was money allocated towards this phase, and we can use it on the next phase. Is that
You're correct. I apologize.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm
Oh,
understanding.
that's good clarification.
That's a
I
great point of
missed that.
clarification. Yeah.
So it does go back in the WACOG.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my understanding as well.
But that would be, then those funds, just to be clear on the tape, then those funds could then be used again for a community-wide purpose, transportation purpose moving forward, and that's all I want to make sure. It's
Yeah.
not going to go back to, it'll stay in Weber County.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
Oh, hold on, I'm not sure that's a true statement.
I think it is. I think we could be able to, it'll go back towards the
Well,
transportation
We didn't spend it.
subcommittee.
I think that has to go back into the WACOG dollars.
Yeah,
But it's money that's allocated towards as the county's 12th Street projects.
We have to get it we have to get reallocated.
that's true.
Reapproved.
Yeah.
Through the COG.
Right.
Yeah,
Through the
COG.
COG, correct.
So-
Transportation.
Yeah, that's right. So it actually goes into the COG's coffers.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's true.
But I
don't
believe
think
it's
they're
still,
what we're talking, those aren't protected dollars. They have
Right.
to go back in with another request.
If I said
Right.
protected, I didn't mean that, but that's, but it is going to, they will be used eventually somewhere here in Weber County. That's my
correct.
point.
Priority to the county and
Yeah,
and
it will be
oversight
used.
where they get spent.
Yeah, I
Right.
agree with that. Okay.
Right.
Okay, commissioners, questions? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
Motion to approve item number 3, the reconciliation change by and between Weber County and BHI Inc.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the change order,
Second.
and we have a second by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's go on to H4, request for approval of contracts by and between Weber County and the following individuals for the production of ragtime. Marilyn Montgomery, costume and props. Adam McGuire, sound designer. Mackenzie Howie, stage manager. Miss Bybee,
Hold on. Not everything's a prop.
prop. Is it
It's a prop.
Is that appropriate?
It's a
Prop.
Yeah, I get, that's what,
Maybe prompt to use.
probes.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, sorry
Good
about
morning.
that.
No, you're fine, you're fine. This is just the last of the production team for Ragtime. So,
What are the dates of that ragtime again?
21st and 22nd. It's a Friday, Saturday
21st and 22nd
of
of?
February.
Thank you.
So had rehearsal last night on stage, and things are moving right along, going well. So it's going to be a wonderful performance, different than anything we've ever done because it's concert style. So concert style means they'll have their scripts in hand. Everybody will be just very minimal props, a little bit of projections on the screen and things, but all the cast is on the stage all at the same time.
Nice.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Questions?
with the full orchestra. So
Comments?
Really looking forward to ragtime. As you'll remember, the orchestra pit will be used.
Right, we have a.
This is going to be a really, really cool deal right
Yes.
here in our own.
Ogden Orchestra's playing.
Yeah, it's right here in our own Ogden, Weber area. So this will be great. Mr. Chair, when you're ready, I'll be happy to make the following.
I'm ready, go ahead.
Make the motion that we approve the contract by and between as presented for ragtime, Marilyn Montgomery, Adam McGuire, and Mackenzie Howie.
And we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And Commissioner Jenkins seconds. Any discussions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Ms.
Okay.
Bybee.
All right,
Looking forward to
thank
that production.
Thank you.
All right, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn and convene a public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
And we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. We're now in a public hearing to deal with Visit Ogden, notice of intent to apply for strategic development program. Sarah,
Good morning.
welcome.
Thank
Good
you.
morning.
So if you all remember, a couple of months ago, I was here to present our 2020 annual strategic plan to you for approval. And during that presentation, I mentioned our goal this year, our primary goal of being the movement towards developing a strategic a strategic sustainable tourism master plan so that we can continue to work towards not only raising the tax revenues that tourism creates, but also maintaining the assets and supporting the direction of what's bringing people here in the first place. The stars have aligned, as they sometimes do, and I know that you are all familiar with the Utah Office of Tourism co-op grants that we are able to apply for each year. There's the traditional co-ops where we get the matching for our marketing dollars, but there is also a new program. They eliminated one that they called the cafeteria program last year and have replaced it with a destination development co-op. What this means is that we can apply for one of 3 programs that are part of this destination development. One of those is the development of a strategic tourism master plan, which means 50% of the cost for the development of the plan will come out of our budget, and 50% of the costs will come from the Utah Office of Tourism if our application is approved. So I think because these destination development opportunities are countywide and lots of times impact, a number of county departments, and most of the destination marketing organizations in the state are actually a county department. One of the requirements to submit the application is to present the intent to apply in a public meeting. So that is what I am here to do, is just to let you know that we have an intent to apply. The money that is coming out of our budget has been budgeted, so I'm not asking for any additional resources or anything along those lines. We'll just be applying, and if we are one of the applications that's approved, then we will be able to move forward this year with creating that plan.
Thank you for that. Does that include your presentation?
Yes.
Commissioners, questions, comments?
I do have one, Gage.
Go ahead, Commissioner Jenkins.
So, Sarah, this comes out of the Office of Tourism, you
Correct.
said, right?
Yes, out of the Tourism Marketing Performance Fund.
Okay, and so you mentioned that they've done away with one grant and created another one? Okay.
So it's all part of that overall
Right.
20% that goes towards the co-op.
Right.
A number of years ago, I can't remember, 5 or 6 maybe. They took a portion of that total traditional co-op and segmented it into this, what they were terming the cafeteria plan. And the goal was to provide a little bit more support for the smaller rural bureaus. And they just weren't taking advantage of it the way they had hoped. So they eliminated it last year, came out with this destination development plan, or co-op opportunity, which is also kind of geared towards the rural communities, but we have a lot of needs here in Weber County as well, and I want to be proactive in trying to get matching dollars to move those in the right place.
Right.
Point of privilege, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
If I remember correctly, it was then Senator Jenkins who helped get this thing rolling off the ground.
It sure was.
Back
Father
when-
of tourism.
So,
That was my baby.
I think you're right.
That was back when Moby Dick was a minnow, and but it still is alive and well today. But secondly, I wanted to make sure that everyone understood that we have great leadership here that's taking advantage of it locally. So with those statewide dollars, Sarah, I commend you and your team for working and making sure that we get, I think we're getting a good share of this. Certainly, I'm not say all we deserve, but I think we do a very good job bringing people in from outside the state here, especially as our bureau is very well recognized as being one of the most effective in the state. So I appreciate your work here.
Okay,
you,
anything
Mr.
else?
Chair.
So Sarah, just a question. So this grant money is available now, it's just a matter of making the application.
The application period runs from January 7th to February 7th. So as soon as we have the okay here, we'll apply. And then they haven't actually said when they will let us know if we are one of the recipients of the grant, but I assume it will be shortly following that February 7th deadline.
Thank you. Additional questions for Sarah?
None.
Thank you for that presentation. So you're just looking for a approval.
Yeah, I just had to make a public meeting notice in case there were any questions or
Good.
items
All right.
to discuss.
Well, we're going to hear now from all the public that would like to talk about this.
Thank you.
So with that, we'd open this up to public comments. Please don't rush the mic. We'll
You'll all
plenty of
have a
time.
turn.
All right, since doesn't appear anybody would like to talk about this,
Mr. Chair,
I'd like to move to a public meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene a public meeting.
Thank you. We have a motion and
Second.
a second by Commissioner Jenkins. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're now adjourned and in a public hearing, which would give us time for a action if we so desire.
Do we need an action on this?
Do you need any action or just information? Okay, so you don't need a formal approval. Okay, so you've done your job. And so have we. Thank you. Okay, thank you, commissioners. I think that concludes our action items then, and we look like we need to reconvene into a close meeting at the discretion of the board.
Just did that.
No,
No.
closed meeting.
Closed session.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we adjourn this meeting to go into closed session to discuss property or human resources, personnel, or...
This is to discuss purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, including any form of a water right.
Okay, is that your motion?
Yes.
So we have a motion to close this meeting and to go into a closed meeting for the possible discussion on purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, including any form of water right. That's the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
A roll call,
Roll
Commissioners.
call.
Oh, roll call, sorry.
Commissioner Harvey.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins. Chair Farrar.
Aye. We're now adjourned. We'll go into a closed session. Thank you.